Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of She is Unstoppable. Today, we're joined by a special guest who's here to help us conquer the ever growing digital landscape. Andrea Farrow, a Google Workspace specialist and a Google for Education certified trainer. Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us today.
You are so welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Talk everything Google. Yay.
I cannot wait because I use Google. I think, I thought just about all the features until I talked to you last time. Let me rephrase that. But it offers so much. And I'm all about efficiency and being organized. And I cannot wait for you to share tips on how to even get more organized, save money, which makes me save time, right? So you're
Yep.
going to help us really understand that whole Google workspace, aren't you?
That's my goal. That's my goal.
Awesome. So let's start by diving into your background because you mentioned that you were a classroom teacher, a
hmm
special education teacher, and even an education technology specialist, if I remember
Yep.
correctly. So,
Yep.
what
Yeah.
first drew you to the world of education, and how did that translate into being an expert with Google Workspace? Like, help me get that bridge clear.
No worries. I'll go on my roadmap. So I always kind of was that teachery kind of kid and a teenager. I babysat a lot. I did a lot of, volunteering at church, different things. And so when I decided to become a teacher, it really wasn't a surprise to anyone. I was I am going to be that awesome kindergarten teacher and just dive right
Oh,
on in. But the funny thing is that I always said to myself, I could see myself being a teacher, but only for maybe about 10 years. We'll see how this goes. And it was at the 10-year mark that I actually left. And I didn't make the connection until later that I was like, oh, yeah, I said that to myself. But it was just like I didn't choose to leave. COVID happened. And then it just kind of, things went from there. But I was always the techie one at school. So I was always the early adopter of everything. So when the iPads came, I was the one who adopted the iPads and adopted the technology, like with the curriculum, and then taught my colleagues about it. And then when I was in the classroom in the mid, 2010s, that's when Google Classroom came out. And so I adopted that and I learned a lot about that. And then I taught my colleagues about that. And then when I was a special education teacher when COVID hit, and by that time, Google has education certification. So I was already a Google Educator level 1 and level 2. And so I started leading professional development for my colleagues online because we all had to figure out how do we do this online.
yeah.
And that led me to become a Google trainer. And at the exact same time, I decided, well, I might as well make some extra money on the side by becoming a virtual assistant. And so I started digitizing products for teachers who needed to have their paper and pencil products suddenly be put online. And so that just kind of snowballed into I was doing the digitization for my clients. And then I had an opportunity to go into a school that had never had technology before COVID hit. And so, right? I know, right?
I can't even imagine. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
it was a Montessori school, and Montessori doesn't
Okay.
really
A little bit
have like
different. Yeah.
exactly, but they were thrown into a distance learning scenario. So I had my role with them was to teach them about Google, teach them about how to use Google tools to be online. And so I just found this affinity for working with adults to help them feel confident with Google tools. And so when I decided to go into business for myself, I was still doing the digitization, but I found out I was doing a lot of coaching and just helping adults like just unlock Google tools and kind of like when we had our conversation, show what's possible because a lot of times people just don't know what actually is possible with Google. And if you know what's possible, it really can save you time and you don't need a lot of those other tools that you pay for. You can do a lot just with Google tools. So that's kind of what I've made my mission now.
Wow. I always say that for me personally, like I never choose to be in marketing or to do a podcast or to speak publicly. I was actually terrified of all that. But my path kind of found me, and I know I'm
Mhm.
exactly where I need to be. And it sounds like your path kind of found you too. Like it
Yeah.
just led you to this whole new arena. And I'm thinking about those teachers that you took the lead learning about Google Classroom and everything. You had to be a godsend to them. They were probably like, Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For
Especially when we were all at home and we were doing all of those. I got so many calls of like, my student, I'm having XYZ issue with this. What do I do? And then I would just get on a call with them and help them and explain them. And I realized I just have a natural talent for explaining the technology in a way that's easy to understand.
you're still
And
a
so
great
I'm,
teacher.
yeah, exactly. I just don't teach in the classroom anymore. I just teach online
I love
and
it.
with
I
adults.
love it. So some of our listeners might be new to Google
Mhm.
Workspace, right? So they're like, well, I know Gmail and I've seen Workspace pop up, but what exactly is Google Workspace? Can you kind of give us a quick rundown of what those core tools look like?
Yeah, definitely. So you might have heard the term G Suite, and that was the old term for it. Now it is called Google Workspace. So it's essentially the same thing. There are a free version and a paid version. They have the same tools. So those tools include Gmail, your email service, calendar, Google Drive to house all your files, and then your word processing component, so Google Docs, your Sheets component, Google Sheets, a Slides component, Google Slides, and then there's a Forms component, and then a bunch of other little tools that can help and go in there as well. And so most people are familiar with Gmail being the free version. So most people have a Gmail account, and that is completely well and fine, except for the fact now in business, you do really need your own business workspace for a couple reasons. And that is because your business, you operate as a business, and those free tools aren't designed under the terms of use for a business. And so you really should have one. And the Google Workspace allows you to put your domain name at the end. So you would have, like mine is at Adrian Farrow. So all of my emails come through that and it's connected into my domain name. And then the business workspace also adds a lot more functionality for you to work with your team. If you have multiple people, if you need to give multiple users accounts, you can build a team underneath that domain. And it gives you extra security and storage, which is really important for a business owner. They understand that businesses really need to take that security, seriously. So
Yeah.
they up that security on the business end. And then, I mean, for $12 a month, you get 2 terabytes of storage. I mean, that's a ton of
A
storage.
ton of
And
storage.
so, so one of the things that I do, I also with the new email requirements that came
Yes.
out at the beginning of February, and the fact you cannot send email marketing with at Gmail address, that has really pushed people to get a Google Workspace. So one of the things that I do a lot is work with entrepreneurs to get them set up on their Google Workspace, and then also to transfer all of those files from a Gmail account over to a Google Workspace account, because it's not as easy as you might think it is. It's kind of
No.
complicated.
No, I can't imagine what would go into that. And I'm so glad that you brought up with the changes with email because
Mhm.
that's so important. And that change did just happen a few months ago. And it does make a difference. Your emails won't go through. You're not going to send it and it's going to go into spam. And it's just, you need to, plus it looks professional. I mean,
Exactly.
let's just call it what it is. I mean,
Yes.
aside from needing it now, it looks more polished. I know if I get an email from somebody that's a Gmail and not an
Mhm.
actual end with their business domain, I'm thinking it's more of a hobby and they're not really serious
Mhm.
about what that business is. So it does look more professional.
Yeah.
But that Google Workspace has so much. I would be lost without it. If you looked inside my workspace, like it's so everything is organized. I know exactly where to go to get exactly what I need for any given client, past or present, right?
Mhm.
So, but you talk about saving time, and I know that Google Workspace has helped me save time too. Can you talk about a productivity hack or something that you use that saves you time now that you utilize Google Workspace?
So one of the things that, oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, I could
I
go on
know,
forever
right?
about
I'm
all
not
these
just to
different
pick
things.
one
I'm
or
like,
two.
just
Like
one or two. One of the things that I absolutely love that's part of the business plan is the shared drives aspect. And I don't think that enough business owners know about shared drives. So it's one of the things I talk about a lot. And that is with the middle plan for your business. So the Google Workspace has 3 different plans. Most people can operate on the bottom two. The top one, you don't need it as much unless your business is quite large. So the bottom plan doesn't have it, but the middle plan does. And the reason why this is awesome is because in Google, whoever originates a file is the owner. And that's really important to know. So if you have virtual assistants or you have other team members and they are the ones that originate that file, and then they decide, oh, I'm not working for you anymore, or something happens to their Google account, something along those lines, you as a business owner have lost those files. And I have actually worked with clients that have had that happen to them. And it's devastating and it's hard. They have to recreate things and whatnot. So a shared drive shares ownership of files. And so you can create one for your team, you can create one with your business partner, you can create one like me and my VA have one. And then as the person who originates the shared drive, I have full control over what that other person does. So my VA only can add and edit files. She can't delete them or whatnot. And that saves so much time because we both know where everything is.
Yeah.
We can easily find things. And then if that other person, chooses not to work for me anymore or whatnot, I have control over my files as my business owner. I have ownership over those files. And so I'm going to save time down the road where I potentially won't have to recreate things or do different things or whatnot. So shared drives are so incredibly helpful for business owners.
When we first had talked offline before we're recording today, I didn't realize about shared drive. Like when you said shared drive, I'm like, oh yeah, I have a shared drive. Like somebody can send me a file and shows up in my shared drive on
Yeah.
Google, and that's what you mean. And you're like, nope, that's not what I mean. Like you explained pretty much just what you explained now. And I think I see how that's so important. I was in a meeting following our conversation, and somebody within a company had created a very important document. And I had asked who owns that document, because if anything changes, if
Mhm.
staff changes, we can lose that document. And in that instance, I'm like, wow, we really need this shared drive, because it should be more than one person that has access to this in an organization, because if one leaves, they can wipe it
Mhm.
out, but the other one still has it secured. So two people actually can own the same document, not just one person. Correct? That's what you're saying.
Exactly, exactly. You share ownership of it, but as the originator of the Google, or excuse me, of the shared drive, you can choose what access they have. So you could actually have
Yeah.
it so they can only look at it, that they can't even
Right.
do anything with it. They can only look at it, but you guys share ownership. And so you, as the person who originates the drive, can actually drag those files into your My Drive. So if your VA originates a Google document and they're done with it, they don't need to see it anymore. You can actually move it into your drive so that you're the
Yeah.
permanent owner of it and they don't have access to it anymore, or they don't have ownership over it anymore. So it's
Yeah.
really important to think about ownership in regards to Google Drive, which I don't think enough entrepreneurs do, because we just create.
Yes, we do. We do. And I ran into an issue with that years ago when I first started off in marketing. And I had these old files from a client that I hadn't seen in years. And so I was cleaning up, things had changed. I'm like, oh, I'm going to clean up my Google folder, deleted things, and
Mhm.
didn't think anything of it. And then that person reached out to me again, hadn't worked with them for years, and said, hey, I lost or deleted everything you gave me. Do you still have it? And I'm like, no,
Oh.
no, I don't. I
Yeah.
totally deleted it. And they were totally okay with it. I don't think they expected
Yeah.
me to hang on, but I felt terrible. I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, but my fault is like I like when things are clutter free in my house
Yes.
and in my digital workspace, right? So I'm always kind of cleaning things up, but in the process I'm deleting, or I did
Mhm.
delete, and then I lost some important documents. So this is where that's really important too, to
Mhm.
not happen again. So
And then can I give you another tip
yeah,
based off of
oh,
what you just
go. Give
said?
me as many
Yeah.
tips as you want.
Yeah, so one of my, especially if you have the drive that has a lot of storage, you don't really need to delete, because 2 terabytes, unless you create a lot of stuff, you're not going to go through that quickly. And so one of the things that I suggest is making an archive folder, or some people are like to see later, they name it funny things, but essentially it's an
Yeah.
archive folder. And you just drag everything in your drive that you don't need to see anymore, that you don't need to have in your view, so that you delete, you get rid of that digital clutter, like you're not seeing it, but you can still search for it. It's still there. You can still grab it and whatnot. But the idea is that visual aspect of like, it is out of my sight. So
That's
in
me. You are speaking
exactly.
to me.
Yeah.
You are speaking to me. I don't want to see it.
Exactly. Just
And
put
I
it
do,
away.
right, right. And I do have, because well, we'll get to that in a second, but I like the idea of the archive and putting all the old files in there. And I don't want to go on because I have a question because I want you to
Yeah.
share, right? So we're talking about Google Drive, and obviously we're talking about like organizing these folders and how to keep everything so it's easy to find. You said
Hmm.
you and your VA know exactly where to go and you have access to everything. So, can you give us an example? And I know we don't have, can't see a computer screen or actually do anything, which would be really helpful to describe it. But can you describe a way to organize that Google Drive to get the maximum efficiency?
Yes, definitely. So I do have a YouTube video about this, so you can see a
Ooh,
visual.
can we
So my
put that in the
YouTube,
link of these show
yes,
notes?
definitely.
Awesome.
Yes. And my YouTube video is just my name, Adrienne Farrow. So you can just go find it there. But I have adopted a system. It's by a man named Tiago Forte that I absolutely love, and it's called the Para system. And it's only 4 folders. So I only have 4 folders in my Google Drive. Each folder has many different subfolders, but
Yeah.
I know based off of these folders where to go. So the first one, the P stands for projects. So anything that is time sensitive that you're working on. So anything like a podcast episode or a YouTube episode or a summit or something that is has a definitive start and end date goes in the project folder. And then when you're done with that project, you just drag it to your archive folder. And that's what the A at the end of para stands for. And then A, the PA, it stands for areas. And that's things that are ongoing in your business. They don't have a start and end date. So, like finances or social media or your CEO tasks or things like that. So, underneath that A, you have all of those folders of things that you need to go to on a regular basis. And then R is resources, and resources are like that article that you came across that you want to save for later, or like you were in a bundle and you got some free stuff from that bundle that you might want to get back to later. And then the last A is archive. So I adopted that at the beginning of 2024, and it's really changed the way that I set up my Google Drive, because I just think every time I start a new Google document or I bring in something into my Google Drive, okay, where does this go? Okay, this is a project. This is part of my this has a start and end date. I'm going to put it here. This
Yeah.
is in an area. So a lot of people are surprised when I say I only have 4 folders in my Google Drive. When you open up my drive, there's only 4 of them in there. But yes, I have a YouTube video that goes over exactly how to set up that structure.
I love that because, like I said, I don't like clutter. So
Mm-hmm.
and I want things very, I like efficiency. I like efficiency. So
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. I probably have about 14 folders, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought I was doing great until I
Yeah.
just heard this, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking of the folders that I have. And I'm like, yeah, I can totally implement that. That makes sense in my head on
Mm-hmm.
how that works. And that might be easier. So yeah, I'm gonna give that a shot and see.
Go for it. And I'm always a big fan of doing what works best for your brain. So
Yeah.
the pair system might work really well for me and my brain, but it might not work for someone else's brain.
Yeah.
So think of that file and folder structure that you're going to stick to, that you're going to keep up, that's going to work for you and your brain, and then go from there. So it might take some trial and error to figure it out, but you want to figure out what works best for you.
Right. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
So we're kind of talking about these folders now, right? We've
Yep.
talked about Gmail. Share with me a tool in Google Workspace that maybe may not be as well known, or maybe, I mean, when I say underutilized, you kind of talked a little bit about that share that I
Hmm.
think is underutilized, but can you give me another idea of something that it can do that would really help in business?
Yeah. So I think as business owners, we always have that running to-do list. We always have
Yeah.
that, all those things that we need to get done. And so in Google Calendar, there is an aspect called Google Tasks. And Google Tasks, I feel like, is extremely underutilized. It used to be on the side of all of your Google tools, there's a little like sidebar, and it used to be just an icon there. But now they've actually integrated it in with Calendar, and you can make to-do lists that then show up on your Google Calendar. So you can make different lists you can make as many lists as you need. So you can have a list for a project or just a running to-do list or whatever you need. And then if you give that task a due date, and it can just be a date or it could be a date and a time, then that will show up on your Google Calendar. So when you're looking at your Google Calendar, you'll see those things that need to get done on your to-do list. And so I absolutely love it. They have a great mobile app as well.
Oh,
So I use it on my phone all the time. So if I'm thinking of something, I can just go jot it down really fast on my
yeah,
Google Tasks and it comes up. So that is one of my new favorites, especially since it integrates with Google Calendar now. And you
yeah.
can just find it at the top of your Google Calendar. There's two buttons right next to each other. One's a calendar icon and one's a checkbox icon. So those two are right there next to each other. So that's one of my absolute new favorites.
So I don't use Google tasks that much because I use Asana, right?
Okay. Yep.
Um, but I will use Google Tasks for personal things,
Yes.
and then Asana for because it's more of like a workflow. It's a little bit
Yes.
different, right? But in those tasks in Google Tasks, can you create subtasks in there?
You can. So you
Get
can
out.
create.
Oh my gosh,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh,
Yes.
I don't know if she's gonna say no,
Yes.
you can't, but you
Yep,
could.
yep, you can, and then you can give each of those subtasks their own due date and their own time, for there. So you could have a master one with the like this needs to be done by
Yeah.
this date, but then these subtasks need to be done by this date. The only thing you can't do with subtasks is you can't make them reoccurring, and that I found a
Okay.
little bit. I wish they had it like for my morning routine. I wish I would have been able to put like morning routine reoccurring, and then it has all the things I want to get done during there, or something like
Interesting.
that. So they
Okay.
don't have that aspect, and not yet. I hope they'll do it in the future. It is like you said, it's personal. You cannot
Yeah.
share that with other people. So you
Right.
cannot have it like shared with other people on your team and things like that. So it is a very personal to-do list, but it can be a great brainstorm place as well. Like especially with that on the go mobile app, like if you just have a running brainstorm list, jot it in
Mhm.
there and then put it into your Asana or put it into your project management system.
Right.
But that's a great thing to use too. So but the fact that it
Interesting.
integrates with Google Calendar is what I like. So you can actually see it pop up on your Google Calendar. And
No,
you can
I
mark
do
it
like
as
that.
complete.
Yeah, I like that because I'll put different things, like I said, just personal reminders, like, hey, make sure you do this, and it'll pop up in the calendar, and that's how I know. It's like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
so glad it's there. Like,
Yes,
because if it is not written down somewhere that's gonna pop up in my face, it will get forgotten. I can promise you
yes,
that. I will not remember about it.
100%.
So earlier when we first started talking, you talked about creating digital tool or digital products,
Hmm.
right? When you were a
Hmm.
teacher. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like what products did you create? Like
Yeah.
how did you use Workspace for that?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, one of the amazing things about Google is the collaboration aspect of it and the fact that you can share a document and work on it with multiple people. And so it's used a lot, especially in the classroom, but it's used in entrepreneurial space as well for digital activities. And so for the teacher space, I would make things like interactive notebooks or task cards, like so that and they would be made in Google Slides. So Google Slides allows you to link and you can link between slides or you can hyperlink out. But with so I would make notebooks and each tab on the notebook would be a link to go to a different slide for them to input in the information. And so on the teacher classroom side with Google Classroom, it works really easy to put it in there. On the entrepreneurial side, I mean, I'm seeing more and more and more digital products being made in Google Docs. Google
Oh,
Docs is a Google Slides will do more of the design element. Google Docs is more of your word processing, but because it's so easy to share, and it's because it's so easy then just to make a copy to put into your Google Drive. Google Docs and slides, and then even sheets and forms can really be utilized to make products that you can
Yeah.
actually then sell and share with other people.
I never thought about using Google to create products.
Yeah.
I mean, not really. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think I have, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah, you can
It
make
makes so much sense.
workbooks, you can make,
Yeah.
I have in my membership, I do a new, product every month so that my members will get something they can use in their business every single month.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I use is a KPI tracker. And so I have a Google
Okay.
form that's a KPI tracker that I go through, and every week I input in my data, and then it pushes to a Google sheet. And so I
Yeah.
make a copy of that KPI tracker for my members. And so that's a digital product that I have created and then now I have sold.
Yeah.
So that's an example of some of those things that you can do. And
Yeah.
Google Sheets is a very popular one to make a lot of digital products. You'll see a lot like on Etsy and other things like that. One of
Yeah.
my things that I use a lot in my business, which has transformed the way I work, is I made a dashboard for myself that has all of my business information on one Google Sheet. And then I have a $5 challenge that I can give you the link for you to give to everybody
Yes.
listening as well. But it walks you through exactly how to set it up so you can have one hub that has all of the course links, all of those links to the courses that you take, all of your links to your offers, all of your,
Oh my
important
gosh.
documents and things like that that you get. It's designed to be a one-stop hub to just capture all that information and then link out to where you want to go from there.
Oh my god, you definitely need to share that with
Yeah,
everybody listening and with me because
definitely.
I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking of all the different things that I do offer, and it's like those I would probably have to search for.
Yeah,
So the thing, so I love that. Yes, share that, share that, share
definitely.
that.
Definitely,
Thank you.
definitely. I use it. I mean, I use it every day. It's always up on my computer. And one of the things I like, because if I put a hyperlink in, when you hover over the hyperlink, Google gives you the option to copy the link. So it makes it really easy just to
Yeah.
press copy. And then I have the link to go ahead and give to whoever I need to give it to. So it's really helped to streamline my business. And I think I have over 100 people that are using the dashboard now. And it's really helped.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
That is awesome. That's so
Yeah.
cool. So, Adrienne, how can our listeners, if they're listening to this and they're like, wow, I need some help with my Google Workspace, I had no idea that you can do that much in it and that it would save me time. How do they find you?
Definitely. So I'm on Instagram at the Adrian Farrow and on YouTube at Adrian Farrow. And my website is adrianfarrow.com. And then all of my offerings, so the dashboard I talked about, the membership I talked about, some freebies I have and stuff are on my hub at go2.adrianfarrow.com. And go-to stands for Google Tools. I just have to
Oh,
throw that out
that's
there.
awesome. I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that. That is so cool.
So,
And
yeah,
if you're listening and driving or you didn't catch what she said, they are in the show notes. So just look in the notes and you can access Adrienne's. Adrienne, thank you so much for coming on. This
yeah,
has been wonderful. You have shared so many valuable insights on how to use the power of Google Workspace to be successful. So thank you so much.
you're more than welcome. Happy to be here.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you next week. We'll see ya.